Guys, very shortly we will start the class. And as you all know that the paper is very important, British literature in early 20th century, right? So this is the paper that we are going to discuss in today's class. And before that, just let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Vinod Kumar. I have been associated with ignou Indira Gandhi Open University since 2013, when PGDAB College, which is one of the associate colleges of University of Delhi, they got the pilot batch, and I was a part of that. Because since like in 2013, they were actually in the process to start with the classes for postgraduate students, those who were doing MA English, and the graduation students, including BA pass course, program course, and honors, both. So that's why, I had enough experience and exposure to teach to the students, like having different courses across the literature, MA and BA courses. So let all the people join. Once maximum student join, like for this session, we will then start immediately. And before that, I would like to tell you guys, I am actually postgraduate in English literature, MPhil, and PhD in English literature from University of Delhi. And I have been teaching English literature for many years, around like more than 18 years experience I do have for teaching English language and literature. So, as you all are aware that this session is meant for discussion and clearing your doubts. So, whatever doubts and problems you have been facing during your own self studies, you can clear your all doubts, your all questions regarding this paper. Okay, because there are many students doing this paper, and they have opted, and might be like every student is not familiar about the literature background, how to do the literature, and how to start reading and doing English literature. That is also one of the very pertinent questions. So my dear students, whatever doubts you have in your mind, whether this is technical related to direct the syllabus or literature background, any type of doubt, or maybe like technical doubt, like related to how to uh, basically you make the assignments, and what are the cycles of the exams, like wherein like exams are conducted by the university. So whatever doubts you have in your mind, you can clear the doubts in this session. So I invite and welcome you all to this very first session, very first lecture of this session. This is the July session, guys. July session for 2022. So yes, now you can start asking your doubts. And before that, if it is like possible that you all one by one can introduce yourself, just a brief introduction, just to be familiar with you and one another. So that really would be very helpful for all of us. Yes, guys.
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
My name is Malahat, and I am a third year English honors student. And I am a teacher, but since I had a knack for literature and a lot of interest in the subject, I decided to pursue this course.
Okay. Wonderful, Malad.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Please go ahead. Everyone, introduce yourself. Okay. Because we all are here like a family, and we have to cooperate with one another. Okay, because if the class goes in a very smoother and a healthy way, definitely it will benefit each one of us. So this is, a kind of a platform which university provides you to enhance your knowledge about literature. And literature is a very interesting subject, and it gives you a kind of a view to look at the life from different and dynamic angles, right? So literature is something like which strengthen your psychology. It actually, empower your mindset to look at the things from a, different perspectives. Okay, so if you take interest in understanding doing literature, definitely it can gives you a lot of things. Yes, guys. Yes, my dear students, rest other students also can introduce, then we will start the class.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, very
I
good
am Janvi
afternoon.
Parashar.
Yes,
I am
Jan.
Janvi Parashar I belong from Bihar. My
Hmm.
RC is RC Darbhanga,
Okay.
and I'm a student of ignou English Honors third year.
Okay, very nice and welcome, Janvi.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes, other students also can introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hmm. Very good afternoon.
My name is uh, my name is Suravi Chatterjee. I belong to West Bengal, and my regional center is Kolkata. It's my
Okay.
third year of English honors from ignou.
Okay. Very nice. Okay. Any other students would like to introduce
Good afternoon,
herself,
sir.
himself? Yeah. Khadija.
My name is Khadija Khan.
Hmm.
I'm from Delhi, pursuing graduation. It's my
Okay. Guys, in okay, fine. Without further wastage of time, I would like to come to the point. As you all are aware that this paper is very important, and the very first block of the first unit of this block, very first block or booklet you can say, because entire the syllabus of this paper is divided into four booklets. And in the first booklet, and the first unit of this first booklet talks about the modernism. So in this unit we will understand a couple of things like development in 20th century literature, like how the literature developed in the 20th century, and different genres of modernism. We will understand what is modernism, the rise of modernism. Also there were certain conditions, certain circumstances, social, political, economic, literary, philosophical, like different, like these dimensions of society and literature we need to understand in order to understand or to maintain the deeper and deeper sense of literariness. So this rise of modernism is actually kind of the kind of a thing that we can go through, and we should understand the all the in and outputs of literature. And along with that we will try to go through the characteristics of three forms, like of literary movements also, you can say, like modernism, then followed by postmodernism, and then postmodernism. So if you talk about the time that we are running in right now, that is called even or can be located in the the era of postmodernism, you can call it, right? So we will go through like the very basic part of modernism. Basically, during this program of study, my dear students, you have been introduced uh, to various and different writers belonging to different periods of English literature. and you have sample their distinctive style or genres of writing in keeping with the characteristics of the age they belong to. You have read Homer, who wrote in 800 BC, before century, nearly 30 centuries ago, or and you followed it up with a study of English literature from the Elizabethan periods, like that is located in 16th and 17th century, until the time of the Victorian period that came to the close at the turn of the 20th century, that the paper is all about, right? So that is very, very important. And different genres of writing associated with these different periods have been variously labeled as a classicism, romanticism, or neoclassical literature, or new classicism, and Victorians, which was predominantly realism, and approximately the writing of the first 30 years of 20th century has come under the rubric of modernism, right? So the literature of the second half, starting at the end of the World War II and the extending well into the 90s, is generally covered by the term postmodernism. So in in nutshell, you can say the period starting in the first phase of 19th century, or the year, very year 191400, when the first world war broke, and it goes up to like it's 1914 to 1800, and till the time of the beginning of the first world war in 1939, is called or can be located into the rubric of first world war or modernism, guys. And then second phase or of world war, like, or second like world war, starts with the or post 1945 era, or second phase of the 20th century, is called the postmodern period, right, or postmodernism, right? So guys, this is how, you should know the period, like what are the timeline of the these literary terms and literary periods, so that you can connect it with the exact the basically the things that are happening in these particular periods, like in terms of look, social, political, economic, and literary sense. So my dear students, so that is why, like, the literature of the second half, starting at the end of the World War II and extending well into the 90s, is generally covered by this term postmodernism, and the literature of last 30 years leading to our present time is referred to the postmodernism or meta-modernism. Actually, the term meta means beyond of something. So here it is modernism. So it means the things which are beyond modernism, like meta-modernism, right? So the literary trends we associate with these different isms make the last 100 and add years distinctive from the early literary ages, guys, right? So let's understand now what is modernism. This is going to be very interesting lecture, my dear students, which will familiar you with the basics of the topic that we are doing in the class, right? And we will do everything related importantly with the topic. So this modern as a term, as you all are aware, is it relates to the present or recent time, as opposed to the remote past or traditions, right? So in literature, visual arts, architectures, dance, and a music style that is known as the modernism represented a very break with the traditional past and its simultaneous search for a new form of expression, right? So that is modernism, which is basically disassociated from the traditional ideas, or traditional method, or traditional way of doing the things, okay, or which is doing, or which is coming up with the new latest trends, right? That is modernism, you can say. So modernism in the 20th century indicates a period of experimentation, in all forms of artistic and aesthetic expression, like in literature, art, architectures, and sculptures, even, and as well as in the performing arts, like performing arts consist of even music, dance, drama, many such things. So, my dear students, modernism in literature is notably, seen in the writings of years like following World War First, like from 1914 to 18, like uh, though it should be stressed that the end of the Victorian age in 19th century marked the beginning of a new style in all forms of art and literature. So, prior to modernism or beginning of modernism, we had Victorian as an age, right? So, my dear students, the Victorian basically uh, age in England, especially this is the second half of the 19th century, saw period actually of a rapid growth of industrialization and remarkable advancement in the sciences and social sciences, and industrial progress resulted in a huge exodus from the rural areas to the cities that brought about distinct social changes, right? And in social sciences such as psychology, there is a psychologist or a psychoanalytical theorist, Sigmund Freud's theories explained human behavior and introduced psychoanalysis for treatment of mental illness in that time. And new philosophical inquiries and political theories needed alternative modes of expression. Right. My dear students, modernism felt a growing alienation from Victorian prudery rooted in Victorian morality and in a society based on hierarchical principles of gender and class, its optimism and its conventions. As you all know, that human society, since its birth or inception, is divided into social classes, or it is based on hierarchical pattern, right? So that pattern we must understand, and somewhere in our subconscious mind we have some glimpses of, or some consciously, the consciousness of those patterns, right? So or especially I would say patterns of hierarchies. So that is why, my dear students, like new ideas in psychology, philosophy, and political theory kindled in a search for a new modes of expression in this time. And all these caused a radical shift both in form and content in 20th century art and literature. So all these ideas, all these changes are quite, you know, visible in this time. And modernism introduced new literature and new forms of art that were innovative and experimental in its true spirit. In the first 3 decades of 20th century, like approximately ranging from 1900 to 1930, means first 30 years of 20th century, is called the modern period. So, my dear students, along with like my lecture, I would really appreciate if you note down these couple of information and try to maintain your own notes, because when you write, you your mind is programmed in such a manner that it tries to maintain the things in its memory, right? So please make notes of these information. It might be very helpful for you. So guys, the first 30 years of 20th century, the first half of 20th century, is called the modern period. And the postmodern period started around the time World War II ended, that is, of course, like 1945, because the Second World War begins in 1939 and it goes up to 1945. So this is the period actually that you can call it like the postmodern period, and it spanned the second half of the 20th century almost for 3 decades and gained ascendancy over modernism from 1960s. However, my dear students, we have to remember that artistic and literary movement cannot be pinned down to an unidentifiable calendar years, and we cannot say that modernism started exactly 1900 at the turn of the millennium or postmodernism at the end of the World War II in 1945, right? And broadly speaking, the 20th century saw the rise of the new movement in creative arts, both like visual and performing art. It had a strong impact on literature, theater, painting, sculpture, music, dance, and architecture, so on and so forth. It was also a philosophical movement as it affected a change in the Western society towards a new way of thinking, living, expressing, and engaging in cultural and artistic pursuits. Right. And my dear students, modernism as a movement gave men and women the means to tackle new world that was increasingly getting impatient with the traditional mores and beliefs. And the term modernism has come to signify a new trend in the early 20th century, which is a very divergence from the earlier tradition of the art and literature that brought in various innovations uh, and various innovative movements and style as a replacement. My dear students, the next thing I would like to discuss and add on to this lecture is that is very important also, that the rise of modernism and postmodernism that I told you in the beginning, which is going to be one of the important topic of this lecture. So among the many factors that gave rise to the new movements like modernism and postmodernism, right, we need to understand the context of beginning or spreading the modernism and postmodernism also, right? So they are the two significant ways. And like the rise of new modernism, modern industrial societies that contributed to the rapid growth of cities, right? This is very first point that we must focus on. And the second is the two horrible world wars, which resulted in great destruction and extensive loss of life. In particular, the racist genocide on the vast scale in the name of the ethnic cleansing, and the kind of inhumanity evidenced in the two world wars was not a new phenomena even now. Like in those years, violence and cruelty between men and men, united by common ancestries but divided by race, religion, societies, like have always been a part of our existence from the days of even of Mahabharat war, right? Which is also called the like no the kind of iconic and very phenomenal like situation or incident in our human history. But what was new in the 20th century was a severe jolt in gave to the traditional belief that God is in heaven and all is right with the world, which led to skepticism about the presence and existence of God. Like so and the question if is arises like is arise like if God is in heaven, so why all is not right with the world if God is in heaven? And led to the skepticism question of God's existence and of this comforting validity of faith in the justness of the divine. So men's relationship with God changed from faith to non-faith to agnosticism, right? And the dependence on God and on His merciful intervention to set things right declined. But on the positive note, this gave rise to a utopian vision of human life, society, a belief in human progress, and a moving forward without waiting for divine grace. And it almost echoed the prophetic utterances of Nietzsche's, Zarathustra in the last quarter of the 19th century, like away with such a God, or better to have no God, or better to set up a destiny on one's own account, better to be fool, better to be God oneself, right? These ideas were, you know, coming on the surface. And this was Nietzsche's exhortation to men to become a superman as the natural next step in the progress of the evolutionary order, right? That has happened. So, my dear students, all these, scientific approach and this, very practical and pragmatic approach was seen through in this time, which, boosted the confidence of human mind somewhere, and it it became, part and parcel and kind of a guiding force to this movement called modernism. So many such literary figures, theorists, and basically historians took the stage of the world, and they gave or they theorized the whole situation accordingly. Then, guys, now in this series of this discussion, I would like to add on some of the important characteristics of modernism for your better understanding over this topic. So, in the beginning, my dear students, modernism began as an anti traditional movement against existing forms of art, literature, philosophy, culture, and society, and impacted other activities of daily life like architecture, fashion, mode, transport, connectivity, right? So on and so forth. And students, like as you all know, that modernism, true to its name, represented a clash between the old and new. Modernism is all about, like, this clash between the new system and the old system. And it rejected all traditional forms as relevant and outdated to fit in with the new economic, social, and political environment of a modern, competitive, and industrialized world. And here the poet Ezra Pound's injunction to basically to make it new. It inspired artists and writers to re-examine established cultural, aesthetic, and religious traditions and bring a change in all aspects of life. And my dear students, the 20th century saw even the beginning of the new aesthetic move modernism in literary and visual arts. In painting between 1890 and 1910 came different art movement, like Dadaism, Surrealism, Cubism, Constructivism, Minimalism, Vorticism, Futurism, and Fauvism, like which are distinct from the earlier forms of classicism, Gothic art, Baroque, Naturalism, Realism, and Romanticism. To name a few of one of them. In short, realistic painting or representation of reality in painting was abandoned in those times. Similarly, in music, melody and harmony were given up in favor of tonalism and indeterminacy, whereby a music piece can be performed not in any one fixed way, but in substantially different ways. And it marked the breakdown of all traditional aesthetic conventions and introduced complete freedom in all aesthetic dimensions, including melody, rhythm, harmony, and tone. And my dear students, in architecture, the new trend was geometrical forms instead of earlier ornamental styles. It included open spaces, use of new and innovative technologies of constructions, particularly the use of glass, steel, and reinforced concrete. The emphasis was on even functionalism or minimalism and rejection of ornaments in those times. And in literature, traditional realism, closed endings, and chronological plots and in this consecutive narratives were set aside in favor of experimental forms that included open ending